Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenn Vo, and I'm super excited to have our guest. Dr. Massey Willingham. Been following this guy for a while. He's here for a real estate summit, but we're going to talk about investments. We're going to talk about his journey. And the thing is that, you only know what you know, right? And we follow other people. It helps us, inspire us, get us to a different level. So that's why I wanted to have you here. So with that being said, let's just dive right into it. Okay. You are a pediatric dentist. Talk about like your background, and then talk about what you're doing right now. So let's kind of go way back. Let's go back to like when you started your practice and talk about like how you exited out that and all the stuff you're doing right now.
Yeah, so when I came out of dental school, opened a practice from scratch. A friend of mine had graduated a couple years ahead of me, followed his practice. He had a model that I liked. So I spent some time with him and just really modeled my practice after his. So for about a year, we both had our own practices that ran very similar. And over a beer one night, we said, hey, let's start another one. And it almost started as a joke, and then we did. And so we had 3 practices for several years, and we figured out, hey, we're actually pretty good at running practices. So we ultimately started and bought several more practices. At some point, we were up to about 10.
Wow.
A few of them didn't fit our model. We were more of a Chick-fil-A, you're going to get real friendly service, high quality service. You're just going to get it quickly. Nobody's going to wait in our waiting room. And we did have an office that was more of a boutique kind of experience. Mm-hmm. So we sold that to a friend of ours who was looking for that. And then we merged a few. So at some point at about 2020, we had an offer on the table to sell to a DSO, private equity-backed DSO. The plan was to do that. That was early 2020. We got about 2 weeks from the close, and something you guys might be familiar with, COVID hit. So the DSO called us and said, hey, I'm sorry, but we got, the bank's seized up, that nobody's loaning money. So the private equity was good to go, but the bank portion was not. And so went a couple of months, things kind of started opening back up. They came back to us and said, hey, we got our funding back. And it's interesting because my partner and I had been partners for about 15 years. We both, COVID hit us both completely different ways. Yeah. So I went through that experience and said, I don't ever want to be tied up into all my eggs in one basket again, that a stroke of a pen can shut us down.
Oh, yeah.
My partner's experience was totally different in that he said, I don't want to take all my chips off the table now and know that I don't have a business that's creating income. So at that point, we were kind of torn on, do we sell, do we not? So we came to an agreement that he bought out as much as he possibly could. So he bought about half of it, and then I sold the remainder of it to the same DSO. Mm-hmm. And then we had...
So he's still going, and you just were off to the
side.
I
texted him yesterday. I'm still his biggest fan. He's not affiliated with the DSO that bought me, so it was, I guess they're sort of in competition. But it's great for him, great for them. They've been nothing but fantastic to work for. And then the plan was to work for them for 3 years, and I'm sitting around at the time. So my partner and I I owned some of it by myself. My partner owned the rest of the real estate. Mm-hmm. When the DSO bought us, and then when he bought us, the DSO and my partner both signed 10-year triple net leases with the commercial real estate.
Wow.
And so we had several buildings there, some of them together. We had to get creative as we were growing. We would buy buildings that would fit us, and then potentially some other tenants as well. We turned a sausage factory into a dental office. We turned a fried catfish place. Can you tell that we're in Alabama? We turned a sausage factory and a fried catfish place into a pediatric dental office and an orthodontist office. And so we had all these buildings. And so
now, did you keep? Now I'm just curious. This is like off topic, but did you keep some of the original structure? Like could someone come in and say, this looks like it used to be a sausage factory?
No, you would never know that it was.
So you didn't keep like the refrigerator there, or you didn't keep like the counter there or anything like that for the catfish place?
We took all the equipment and sold it to a wholesaler to make a little extra money to go towards carpet and stuff like that. And so, and then we leased out the spaces beside it to somebody. We got pediatricians, orthodontists, other things, and so once that happened, I'm sitting on a decent little chunk of money and trying to decide what do I do with this money. My plan is I'm going to work for these guys for several years, and they're paying me pretty well, and so I get pretty excited about real estate. And we already had a lot of real estate, like we talked about, and I get a little excited about it. And so I went on a mastermind with some guys that were real estate based, and came home pretty fired up about that. Yeah. So I came home and bought a strip mall. I call it a MedTail strip mall. We got an orthodontist, a general dentist, urgent care, a chiropractor, Subway, and a haircutting place. And then I also bought a flex space that we converted into, it was a warehouse that we converted It's got a gymnastics studio. It's got like a pump it up kind of daycare sort of place.
Yeah.
So we had those, and
So look, let me stop you right there, because
absolutely.
it's like, I mean, you went from, okay, you were practicing dentistry and you were partner up, and then you made an exit, and then you decided to get into real estate and whatnot. It sounds like everything went like extremely fast, right? What was the time frame from when you decided to exit to you picking up all these properties? Was it like one after another? Was there like some time in between? And then also, like, how did you figure it out? You know, like that's the thing. I think that's the biggest problem. Like with most people who are watching this right now, they're thinking, okay, I want to get into real estate.
Yeah.
I got some money, but I'm looking at this property here and it seems like a good deal. I don't know, and whatnot. So let's start with how did you go through like acquiring all these properties, and then go kind of double back to, well, how'd you learn how to do all this stuff?
Yeah, so half the properties we bought as when we were the dentist, and so I mean, that's where I would start. Most dentists buy your own office. That you're in.
You need the real estate. You have a real reason for it. It's just your office,
and you can get very favorable loan terms when you're the owner occupier. People love lending to that. So that was a start, and then at that point it was left hand putting in the right hand. Well, once we sold, now somebody else is just putting money in the right hand, and then so I mean it seems like it went really fast, and that I came back from this retreat with these guys, and I can go and buy millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of square feet of real estate. But that was a long time coming. I mean, I was that cliche kid that bought and sold stuff. I was a guy that was selling candy out of his locker at the high school. And then that progressed into, I was buying and selling used cars throughout high school and college. I eventually got to the point where I kind of got hooked on real estate. And the way I got hooked on real estate, honestly, was so my wife and I were renting a condo. And we got to be friends with the owner. And she came over one night. She and her husband came over, and they were having dinner with us. And we were having some wine, and she was talking. She said something about the mortgage.
Yeah.
As soon as she left, I told my wife, I said, did you hear how much her mortgage is? I mean, do you know how much we pay in rent? Do you know how much her mortgage is? Why are we doing that? So we literally went and put a contract on a house like 3 days later.
Yeah.
We stayed in our term, and we bought that house. It needed some work, so we renovated it. And so we got to where that was kind of fun. We made some money off of it. When I went into residency, we did it again. We moved in, and so we did that 3-4 times. We would move into a house that needed some renovation. We would live in, renovate it, live in, flip. And then finally we got to a point where my wife said, we're not doing that anymore. Like, we're going to move. So we moved into, once I finally got into practice, we moved into a house that had everything. She was like, we're not painting anything. And so we didn't. But I still had the bug, and so I would buy about a house a year. We would flip that. I love historic homes. We did a lot of historic homes. We actually ended up ultimately doing another live-in flip, a historic home where we gutted it down to the studs, and so that was a good time. You get out of the shower, and some guy's painting your bathroom. But we got through all that, and then that progressed into just bigger projects. So,
I mean, it sounds like that if you want to get, and just like in dentistry, right? Like if you want to do something, you want to learn something, you got to do it, right? Yeah. I mean, you have an assistant. They're like, well, how do you train your assistants? You throw them in there. I mean, that's how you can give books, you can show like diagrams all you want until they actually go in there and do it. It sounds like when it comes to real estate, at least in your story, you just did it.
Yeah, we just did it. And we didn't do everything right, but you learn from mistakes also. Yeah. And so we just kept doing it. And fortunately, we went through, most of my real estate. I did some real estate prior to 2008, but most of it's been since then. And we've been on an incredible run since then. So it's been very forgiving of your mistakes over the time. And so once we got into a commercial, an interesting thing happened in January of this year. I went on a trip. I'm in a mastermind called GoBundance, which is higher net worth individuals that want to be better dads, better parents, just better people all around, and also make money together too. But one of their big pillars is, grab life big, live a life of abundance. And part of that is we go on trips together. So we were in Park City, Utah, and the last day I hit a patch of ice, fell down, I broke my back in 2 places, 6 ribs. Spent 3 days in the Park City Hospital, and then because of COVID, they were out of room, and they said, hey, look, you probably don't need to leave, but we can't keep you here, so find something to do. So I didn't, all my friends had already gone home, and so I did have one friend that came and picked me up at the airport and put me on an airplane, and so I got home, and I spent the next 2 months in my recliner at the house, and then the neat thing was that my mortgage still got paid. So I started looking around, and I'm like, I got enough passive income coming in that my mortgage is getting paid. Now, we're not living high on the hog, but it's paying all of our bills. Yeah. So that really got me fired up about passive income, and then really just being.
I mean, a bad situation, because no, you don't wish that on anybody.
No.
But sometimes, whenever you have like an obstacle or setback or something hard, a lot of times you learn something from it. It sounds like you learned that, hey, look, I'm sitting here laid up on the couch, and things are still getting paid, and now you see like, hey, there's a big opportunity to kind of keep growing that and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's kind of the direction I went, and so I tried to go back to work for a while. I'm still eventually going to have shoulder. I also, in addition to the broken bones, I also tore my bicep and my labrum, and that was giving me a lot of trouble. And so ultimately, I haven't been practicing at all for the last several weeks, and just kind of concentrated my time on real estate and talking to brokers and growing that and just kind of seeing where that goes. And
so for the people who are watching and they're like, okay, hey, I'm pumped up, because that's the thing. Like, a lot of times on social media, we'll hear a story, we'll read something, and you get pumped up. You're like, yes, let's do it. And then sometimes the bubble gets bursted by, well, you know what? Yes, you can do that, but you got to go back to the basics. And everyone's like, I want to know like this shortcut. No, you got to do the basics, right? That's anything in life, right? So for those who are listening right now, they're like, okay, I want to be like this dude. I want to be like laying on the couch and getting passive income. I want to like do live in flips. I want to do all these. I want to get all this commercial real estate. What do you tell those people who are just starting and they want to do all those things? What's the first thing they need to do?
So, I mean, first off, my bills got paid while I laid on the couch, but if I laid on the couch for too much longer, eventually it all starts collapsing. So, I mean, you can't just, they call it mailbox money, but I don't think there is such thing as true mailbox money. So, but I would say just hustle. I mean, just learn as much as you can. And the biggest thing is just do it. I mean, I got friends that call me all the time, and I've actually been treating my time with a little bit more scarcity, and people say, hey, can you go to lunch with me and tell me all I need to know about real estate? First off, I can't tell you all that during lunch, but so now I've gotten to where I'm like, hey, you go listen to X number of episodes of Bigger Pockets, and you read, certain books, and then you come back to me and let's talk about that. Because I get real frustrated because people call me and say, hey, can you tell me how to do this? And
it's kind of like someone coming and saying, can you tell me everything there is to do in pediatric dentistry over lunch, right? I mean, you can barely tell them how to do an SSC right. You know what I'm saying? Stainless steel crown, right? Much less, hey, teach me everything to do to grow. Or here, how about this? Tell me everything about growing a successful dental practice in one lunch. Right, and it's crazy, and it's like, of course, what you would say is like, dude, have you done anything yet? Like, bring me something, or whatnot. So no, I love that. So you brought up Bigger Pockets. We're gonna talk about that. We have a cool story about that. But you're saying, let's look at the resources, read the books, and then actually do it. Yeah,
just do it. I mean, don't. I've got one buddy that, and he'll probably hear this, but know who I'm talking about. For a year and a half, we've talked about buying a house, and he just won't buy the simple
you
house.
Won't just do it.
If you aren't going to go and buy that house, then you're never going to get there. Same thing with my partner and I when we grew our pediatric dental office. I mean, at some point we stepped out there and just bought another one, and then it grows exponentially. It grows on itself. And, eventually once we got big enough, people started calling us. And now the same thing happens. In real estate, and that's another thing. Put it out there. Let people know what you're doing. Don't be embarrassed by it. Say, hey, look, here's the deal. I'm doing real estate now. Call me if you got a deal. One big barrier to entry, I mean, I don't think most people are probably going to jump right into commercial real estate. The barrier to entry is pretty high. And so you gotta do some other stuff to get that cash flow up enough to do it. Or you got to partner with the right people that have that ability to do that.
And the only way you find those people is putting yourself out there,
in those
right?
circles. Yeah, you're going to meetups. You're getting on the Facebook pages. Facebook makes it way easier now. I mean, we used to be you had to go to a meetup, but now, I mean, I'm on. That's how I met you through a Facebook page, and
you don't have to hunt people down for their number. You just send them a message, right? Yeah. The worst thing that happens, they just ignore. Or you can be like me and just harass someone continually. Like I did with somebody, and now here he is on the podcast. Okay, so you have a pretty cool story. So Bigger Pockets is something that I've learned pretty recently, and I've jumped on there. I'm reading a bunch of books from them. I'm going to sign up for a bunch of webinars because, the thing is like if you want to get in, if you're treating real estate as something that you really want to grow, you got to put the time in, right? Like you can't just go and say, hey, I want to do real estate and don't know anything about it. Okay, you're going to be at the mercy of other people. But one of the big guys over at Bigger Pockets and someone who's written a book that I'm actually reading right now. Tell us about that story, because you just brought it to me like, oh yeah, talk to this guy, text him, talk about how you met this person, who he is, and talk about that experience. And again, it ties into you saying about getting out there and doing the meetups.
Yeah, so I mean, first off, I'm a huge fanboy of Bigger Pockets, and the reason why was it was one of the first podcasts that I listened to where they weren't trying to sell me a product. Now, are there products being sold? Absolutely, but it wasn't like, hey, if you want to learn about this, pay $5,000 and come join our course. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what that was. It was, hey, we're passionate about this. We see another way for people to make money and to garner some passive income. Here's how to do it. And it was just a roadmap, and it's totally free. So through that, I was on the forums, and I'm really not entirely sure how I got selected for this, but I got to be part of a mastermind that went to Maui, and we got to hang out with Brandon Turner, one of the hosts of the show, and
that's a big deal, guys. I just want to let you know, okay? If you're in the Bigger Pockets community, that's a big deal. I'm actually reading one of his books. It's actually required reading if you want to get in real estate. But again, he's just mentioning it like it's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, you met him.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a big fan too. I mean, so I tried not to get too fanboy. I made sure that, like, I'm not going to share this selfie. Actually, I didn't have an Instagram page at the time. We set up an Instagram page in Maui just so I could post my first Instagram post as a picture with me hanging out with Brandon in Maui. So that was kind of cool. That was a neat first Instagram post and a neat experience. But I mean, it just got me fired up. I mean, I'm surrounded by a lot of guys that were just powerhouses and ladies that were just powerhouses in the real estate industry. And it just got me fired up, and I came home and bought a lot more real estate.
Well, the thing is that, you know, when you were talking to him, I'm curious, like, how was he, like, when you were talking to him as a person? Because, again, he is kind of a legend, and he's got so much assets in real estate. And, of course, all those other people are there, too. Like, how was it interacting with them?
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely had imposter syndrome. I mean, I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. It was funny because that was the topic of conversation over dinner, was everybody there felt like they didn't deserve to be there.
Wow.
And so that was kind of cool that, I mean, I really looked up to a lot of the guys that were there. And yeah, I mean, he's the same guy that you meet when you hear him on the podcast. Yeah. That's the same on his Instagram page. That's the same guy you meet there. I mean, he's just passionate about helping people realize that there is another way.
Yeah.
And I kind of have that same passion. I mean, I not only about real estate but dentistry as well. I mean, there's so many tweaks that you can make inside the office that just aren't that hard. You know, some scheduling things, some system things that can just really make, you know, dentistry's hard, man. I mean, you get burned out real easy. And it's hard physically, it's hard emotionally. And if you can just tweak a few things where, you know, you perhaps like the job more, or at least are able to do it less and make the same or more money. If I can help people do that, I want to be able to do that in real estate and in dentistry.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, it's funny that you bring that up, because a lot of times, and I think this applies not only for dentistry, but also real estate or life in general. People always want to go from one extreme to another extreme.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you know, I'm going to get in shape, so I'm going to throw out every carb in my house, and I'm going to go this, right? And when you go to an extreme, you're just setting yourself up for failure. But a lot of times, you just need a small tweak. You just need to do something a little different and whatnot. So, again, like, you read online about how people are like, okay, well, this is going on with my team, and they just want to fire everybody, or they want to change everything up. But really, in reality, have you talked to them or anything like that? Talk about how, like, in real estate, when people make a mistake, or when you made a mistake, was it something like really glaringly wrong, or was it just like maybe a due diligence thing, or maybe a little thing? Talk about some of those mistakes that you made in the past.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of it is as you're growing. I mean, you know, it's a lot easier to turn a small ship than a big ship. So the bigger it gets, I mean, the mistakes are more costly, but you have more money to back that up. So when you start smaller, I mean, the mistakes are, I'll tell you one mistake that I learned a lesson from that I won't do again, but it had potential to be very expensive. I bought a commercial building and I didn't get what's called an estoppel certificate. And so what that is basically you go in and you get all the current tenants to sign this sheet of paper that says, hey, we know there's going to be a new landlord. These are the rules that we've been following. So I bought what was supposed to be a triple net property. As it turns out, it was not a triple net. It was the triple net in the lease, but they were not actually collecting the taxes or the insurance. So I come in and I tell the tenants, hey, you owe me this amount of money for the taxes and insurance. They're like, no, we've never paid that before. For 10 years, we've never paid that before. Wow. That would have come up in the estoppel certificate.
Yeah.
So those are things that you learn. I mean, did it cost me money? Yeah, but will I ever do it again? No. So, I mean, I guess it cost me money that time, but if it keeps me from making that mistake over and over and over and over, I mean, in the long run, it gained me a whole lot of money, because I'm not going to lose that money on every single deal. So in the long run, I mean, it paid off. And I think all the mistakes are that same way. I don't know who coin the phrase fail forward, but I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you're either succeeding or you're learning. I mean, there's going to be mistakes, and you just learn.
And as long as you learn from it, right? That's the key right there, right? You know, you're gonna face pain. I made a post about this. You're gonna face pain in any kind of entrepreneurial journey, but it's up to you to determine what is on the other side of that pain. You had a painful experience right here, where you lost some money, but you got something out of it. You learned, I'm never going to do that again. I'm actually going to learn more about that. So now you're not going to make that mistake. So I love that. And so, you know, for those who are watching, they're thinking, okay, all right, get as much information, check. Just jump into it, check. Get on Bigger Pockets, check. You know, follow him, check, right? All those things, right? There are all those things. But if someone like wants a little bit more from you, I know we talked about it, and I know we've been talking about like what's next for you and whatnot, and you just have such a passion to help other people. I'm not sure if you have it planned yet, but what's in the future as far as like mentoring not only other health professionals, but other people in this like real estate journey? You sharing some of the stuff that you learned with other people. What's down the pipeline? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, so I mean, the plan is to start a business that will. So I get a lot of phone calls from other dentists, other medical professionals that I know, you know, gone to school with or whatever. They're like, hey, we see you doing all this real estate stuff, and we would like to, you know, find out how to do it, and will you show us how? And so I think the best way to show somebody how to do it is just to help them do it themselves. And we're looking at setting up a company that will ultimately kind of walk you through the entire process, and then we just get a cut of it. And so when somebody calls me and says, hey, help me buy a commercial building, I mean, because I think it would be foolish of me to try to convince people to stop being a dentist and go into real estate. I mean, I you know, admittedly, I make a lot less money than I did as a pediatric dentist owning 8 to 10 pediatric dental offices. But I love what I do, and so if I can help people take the extra money that they have and walk them through that process, and I get a little, you know, cream off the top, then I think that is a way for them to do it. And then it's a win-win. And again, it goes back to, I mean, the only way you're gonna know how to do this is actually do it, right? Like you could be like his friend, which hopefully your friend end up buying the house, right? Or is he still thinking about it? The guy that you he still hasn't bought it.
He still hasn't bought it. Okay.
Still hasn't bought it.
So you can either be like that guy, or you can be the type of person that he is and just say, hey, you know, I'm going to do it. And, you know, he failed forward. But the great thing about what you're presenting right now is that you actually don't have to fail in this process. You can actually have someone walk with you and learn as well. And let me ask you this. Do you wish there was a program like that around when you started?
I do. I mean, so, you know, when you go to any kind of, you apply for a job or whatever, they say, tell us your strengths and weaknesses. And so I always say my strength is that I will just pound against that brick wall until I get through it. And my weakness is that sometimes it's easier just to take the door that's right beside it. And so I'm bad about that. And so I think I learned to use a colloquialism from the South. Some people can see it, some people got to do it, and some people got to piss on the electric fence. And so I'm more of that guy. I mean, I gotta learn it by just hands-on and make those mistakes. And so I don't know how much I would have benefited from that, but I think I would be a lot further along down the road if I had.
Well, Massey, thank you so much for jumping on, man. I mean, this is such a pleasure. And, you know, for those who, you know, obviously want to keep up with you and want to get in that program, once you get that all fleshed out, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so right now you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Massey Willingham, and that's probably the best way to get in touch with me right now. I don't post a lot, but I do respond to
messages. It worked for me, okay? So if it worked for me, it'll definitely work for you. But thank you so much for jumping on. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll make sure we're going to get this guy on some more, so keep your eye out for future episodes. So thanks a lot. We'll see you guys later.